Hello, my name is Andrew Flushy, and I'm a Virginia traffic attorney. I want to talk to you about the way DUI or DWI conviction affects your license in Virginia. If you're convicted of DUI or DWI in Virginia, it's the same charge. If you're convicted of that under that statute, automatically, even on a first offense, your license or your privilege to drive in Virginia, if you're licensed in another state, your license will be suspended for 12 months. Unfortunately for us, that is a mandatory suspension by operation of law. So even if the prosecutor and the judge all agree that you shouldn't be suspended, you still get suspended for 12 months. There's unfortunately no way around that, even on a first offense. The only way around that suspension is if we can beat the charge and win, and so you would not be convicted of DUI or DWI, or if we could maybe get the charge reduced to a reckless driving charge. Some courts, depending on the evidence, some prosecutors are willing to negotiate a case down, and that can sometimes at least reduce the suspension amount. Instead of 12 months, the maximum suspension on a reckless driving charge is 6 months. So it at least cuts it in half how long you're suspended for. Now, the only good news here is that even though the suspension is mandatory for that 12 months, you are eligible on a first offense to get a restricted license immediately upon conviction of a DUI or DWI. It usually takes a couple business days to get all the paperwork in order to be able to be driving again, but you are eligible to get that restricted license. In Virginia, that allows you to drive to and from work, to and from school, to and from your ASAP classes if you have to take those, which those are also mandatory for DUI. And then also for minor child care and a few other specific things, but it is very restrictive. You don't have a license to drive anytime you want. You can only drive for very specific things. Now, it's also important to know that if you have an elevated blood alcohol content, which would mean a blood alcohol content of 0.15 or more, then you could be looking at some different terms for your restricted license. Typically, you would have ignition interlock at that level. That's required. If you have a 0.15 or higher, you have to have ignition interlock, which is the blow machine that you have to blow in on your car. It's a burden on one hand, but it's also expensive, which is something clients don't understand sometimes. The other important thing is that if you're charged with a second offense, DWI or DUI in Virginia, and you're convicted, you are looking at losing your privilege to drive for 3 years. So it's 3 years loss of your license in Virginia. And then your restricted license is not going to be available immediately. Depending on when your prior DUI was, you may have anywhere from 4 months to 12 months to wait before you're able to get a restricted license. As you can see, it's very complex the way all the rules work for restricted licenses and suspension of your license for DUI. The default rule is that any DUI, you're going to lose your license for some period of time, at least a year, if you're convicted. So it's definitely important to talk to an attorney ASAP so we can see what defense we might have and how we can best help preserve your ability to drive in Virginia.